Hey, what's going on, y'all? Getting ready to do some maintenance on my son's KingQuad 400. Gonna change the oil and filter, front and rear diff, take the air filter out and clean it up, and do a little 500-600 mile review. It's actually got, I think, a little over 6 on it now. Let's see. $622. That's what I was saying. It was somewhere around there. And I'll do a little review. It's a nice four-wheeler. I really like it, but there's one glaring thing that I made a short on my channel about that I'll get to here in a minute and review. But for now, you gotta take this skid pan loose. There's 2 bolts here. You got 2 up here to get to the drain plug for the diff. 21mm drain plug for the oil on the motor. Spin on right there. So we're gonna get that changed out real quick, and then I'll get to work on the diffs and do a little review. Yep, oil's changed. Got the new spin on. 21mm drain plug back in. Kind of have to push the skid pan sets loose. So if you got the bolt fall all the way deep into a deep socket, so just push the pan up with your hand. That way you have no threads. Start with your hand and get your socket back on it. Pretty straightforward and simple. 3.3 quarts with the filter. The kit, service kit came with a brand new spark plug, so even though I didn't necessarily need it, why not, right? Put the brand new GK plug in it. The Denso that was in it was actually pretty corroded up pretty bad. So now I'm moving on to the diffs, and that's pretty straightforward. Just use my ratchet driver, 2 10mm bolts. I'm not gonna take the whole thing off, just loosen it enough so you can get to the drain plug right in there. And we're gonna change that out real quick. Loosen the plastic skid up front. Pretty straightforward as well. It's got bolts right here. You got one there, and that's probably all I'll do. Either that or loosen it from the front and just drop it down. There's probably no need to take the whole thing off. But this is what I want to go ahead and get to real quick. And this is cable. I'm gonna see if I can adjust it. And in my review, I'll go over this. But that manual cable right here that actuates the coupler, it doesn't stay tight, and from brand new it wouldn't completely disengage forward drive and still won't on and off. All right, moving on to the diffs. The kit also came with an air filter, so I was just gonna clean the old one, and yeah, she was pretty bad, which we ride in some really dusty conditions sometimes. So just fixing to get my K&N oil filter spray and oil that up. Put the cone back in it, point in and out, it goes in, and then you just screw that back in, and this holds pressure against the filter and make sure it's good and smooth and flush up against the intake. And that air box was super dusty. So all that'll be left then is to change out the gear oil in the front diff. The rear end's done. All right, we're gonna move on to that. Everything's done now. She's all back together. Plastic inner fender well on the sides and all that. Now time for the 600 mile review. We've had this machine since, I think, March. And the only thing that's happened to it is on one of our mountain rides, my son was riding it, and the overheating light kept coming on. But it's only doing it after a really good climb in the mountains. And I figured maybe it's just been, the motor RPMs were up high, low range for a little bit. I had him just keep riding it in high, and it went away, and it's never come on again since. So could have been a glitch. Maybe it got a little warm. The fan hadn't even kicked on. The fan's probably only kicked on this thing a couple times since we've had it. Outside of that, had obviously 0 issues, other than the big elephant in the room. This garbage 2-wheel drive, 4-wheel drive cable actuator. You'll find some people who swear they've had no issues with it since they bought it. That's all fine and dandy, but there's plenty of people that have when I did my research, and we're one of them. From new, when it was brand new, I knew I could still feel a torque in the handlebars. And I was like, man, this thing is not in 2-wheel drive. So the last ride we was on in the mountains, me and my other son, we was playing on some slippery rocks and stuff. And my son tried to spin and play on his, and he couldn't do it. So I said, let me have it. And I butted the rear tires up against a rock front in that water, and intentionally getting it stuck against it. And sure enough, it was spinning one, then two front wheels while saying it was in two-wheel drive with the lever all the way up. So, man, that's just really, really, really aggravating. I mean, dude, push button electric servo actuators have been being used for, I don't know, 20 years or so now, roughly, in that neighborhood, or longer. Man, it should have done, the machine should have come out with that on there, but I didn't have time today. I had to get everything put back together to adjust. There's a couple of nuts right down here where the cable comes in, right there on the ends of it where it goes into the coupler at the front of the diff. I was going to say about adjusting them. I've already adjusted this once or twice. I just got the boot pushed down, and it worked fine for one use. Went down here to a mud hole down here by the creek. Essentially got it stuck in two-wheel drive, and thankfully the front wheels wasn't pulling. He flipped it in four-wheel drive and spun his way out. But when he got out, he flipped it back in two-wheel drive, and it would not disengage the front end. So not sure. I'm reading and hearing that there's not a lot of really good fixes for this, which is very aggravating. Because, I mean, some people may not care if they got full-time four-wheel drive, but, I mean, that's the whole intention of being able to take it out of four-wheel drive is, only using it when you need it. And then, you ain't wasting that power through the drive line, and you can play, obviously. But, I mean, that's my only real gripe. Outside of that, I don't really comment too much on this machine on comfort because, if you're going to be honest, that's not really its intention. Solid rear axle, I mean, come on. Seat's pretty stiff. None of that really matters. It's apples to apples. It's a machine built to last for an extremely long time. Matter of fact, the service department where I bought it at, they don't even keep belts for it in stock because nobody ever needs them. I mean, it only makes about 30 horsepower. I mean, you have to really be messing up to try and burn a belt on this thing. Outside of that, I mean, have had zero issues. The hot temperature light coming on one time on that one ride is the only thing that's popped up. It's outside of that, it's perfect, except for that four-wheel drive system. If anybody happens to see this and knows of an aftermarket fix for when it's out of warranty, I would love to know about it. Don't know if maybe an aftermarket company makes a different diff with an electric coupler. I don't know. I just want him to be able to actually play. I don't know. I wish I could get a stiffer cable, whatever, so that when you flip this lever, see all the way up, two-wheel drive, down, four-wheel drive. Well, it's not. When you flip it back up, it's not fully got enough tension on it or something to disengage the front end. But like I said, just did a full break-in maintenance run on it. It got the oil and filter changed, front diff, rear diff. And frankly, I'm probably not going to change diffs anymore on these four-wheelers for break-in changes because the oil comes out brand spanking new at 500 and 600 miles. And extremely minor metal shavings on the magnetic tips on the drain bolts. Not enough for me to really care about. I mean, I will probably just wasted a lot of time with that, but it did make me feel better. Anyways, front and rear diff, brand new air filter, cleaned the box out, oiled it up, put a new air filter in it. The kit came with a spark plug, so changed that out as well. Why not, right? It's sitting there. So she's refreshed and ready to go. It won't get anything else except maybe an oil change here and there. Going forward, probably won't ever even change the diffs for a very, very long time. Unless there's a leaky seal, not really any point. But to wrap things up, man, I would still recommend this thing to anyone, especially guys who might be wanting to just work with it and ain't really worried about the two-wheel drive, four-wheel drive situation. Like I said, some guys, plenty of people have not had any issues with it. Unfortunately, we are. It's not a big deal. At least it doesn't stop him from being able to ride it and play on it and use it. So that is the upside. In conclusion, I still highly recommend it. It's a fantastic, well-built machine. And We'll see y'all on the next one when I get ready to review a 500 to 600 mile review on our Outlander 500. And I think it's going to surprise us. Thank y'all.